Well, it's good to be back with you for our fourth day in this Outsiders Bible study. We're going to round out the week this week with the Canaanite Woman. My name is Kevin Young. I have the privilege of serving at Christ's Table as lead clergy. Now, if you want to know more about Christ's Table, because we are a very unique ministry, a very unique group of people, then you can visit that URL that is right up there at www.christstable.today. Would encourage you while there to sign up for our email list so that you can know everything that's going on around Christ's Table. But in short, we are a group of people who are dedicated to walking alongside those who have been disillusioned by the church, discouraged by the church, who are done with the church, but who still have this desire for a connection with Jesus and community. And so that is who we are and what we do. If you would like to know more about this study in particular and how you can be a part, you can visit the URL right at the bottom of your screen, go.christstable.today/outsiders. There actually you'll find a PDF that includes some questions and reading resources to go along with this study. That PDF is absolutely free. You can download it right there. But I also want to tell you that there's a button on there that says get the box. And if you would actually like a box with more physical resources, a book, a New York Times bestseller we're sending out, we have included in the box too this study, Gravity, a 4-week study for adolescents and for children and youth is in there. And also there is a hard copy, spiral-bound hard copy of that PDF. And you can get that by getting the box, and whenever you get the box, you actually financially support us and make this to continue to be possible. We give away as many resources as free, but we can't do this for free, and so we thank those of you who are committed to being a part of this, who financially support us, and we want you to have those study materials in your hand as well, and we give that to you as our thanks for your donation. So this study of outsiders, we're looking at 24 different individuals in the Bible who are outsiders. And this is actually a perfect study if you're disillusioned, discouraged, or done with the church, because these 24 people that we're looking at were disillusioned and discouraged and done as well with various systems, family, and religious worshiping communities. And almost all of them that we're looking at had a positive and beneficial impact from the outside. Some of them did not. And those are cautionary tales. We did one of those this week, but the one that we are speaking about today, I would say, has a positive impact. But this one's tough, and I almost regretted putting this one in the study because this is such a difficult passage. And anybody who thinks that they know what this passage means and has it all wrapped up in a nice, tight little bow, either is being a little dishonest or is completely avoiding the difficulties in the passage, or just doesn't have a great sense of what is going on historically in this passage and what's being said. And so rather than ignore it and avoid it, I'm just going to kind of lay all the cards out on the table and let you do with them what you will. And those cards today are going to come from the story of the Canaanite woman, or some of your Bibles might say the Gentile woman, and that is found in Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 through 28, where we jump into the story of Jesus, who is smack dab in the throes of ministry, so much so that we see Jesus getting away regularly from these incredibly draining seasons of ministry, taking time sometimes for prayer, taking time sometimes for sabbatical, taking time occasionally to spend with his disciples or with family. And this is one of those things where Jesus is kind of heading out of town towards a resort area in order to just take some time, it seems, to decompress. His disciples are there as well. And so when he leaves Galilee and heads north to the region of Tyre and to Sidon, there is a Gentile woman, or a Canaanite woman, who lived there, who comes to him. And there was a very tenuous at best relationship between the Jews and Canaanites. It's a story that goes way back into the First Testament, into the Hebrew text and the Hebrew scriptures. And God had a lot to say about the way that the Canaanites lived in those days, and called those who would follow him to be set apart and live differently than those people lived for various reasons. And so, unfortunately, some of that tension remained between the religious worshiping community of Israel and Canaanites, which means that the lady that we are about to be introduced here to, a Gentile woman, is an outsider, not just for all intents and purposes, but is fully an outsider. She comes to Jesus, and you have to kind of imagine here that Jesus is like, really, this is my day off. This is my week sabbatical. This is me in my vacation month on holiday. But she approaches him, and this is something that celebrities, and Jesus was a celebrity. Even in life, he was a celebrity, are used to, and that is never getting away. Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David, she says. She calls him Lord and Son of David. Now, it's up to the reader to determine whether or not those are honorifics that she just understands and recognizes who he is, whether she's maybe trying to grease the skids for the request that she's about to make by calling him titles that would indicate that she is a follower, or just that she is a follower and a God-fearer. A God-fearer in the vernacular of the time is somebody who was not Jewish, but who had essentially converted to Judaism, which Gentiles could do by taking on all of the responsibilities of the law on top of them. But the text doesn't tell us that she was a God-fearer, and in the New Testament, usually we're told that those individuals are God-fearers. We're just simply told that she was a Gentile woman, a Canaanite woman, a Syro-Phoenician woman, to be exact. And so we have to kind of, I think, assume that she was not a God-fearer. So when she calls him Lord, Son of David, it's possible that she is an insider with Jesus, but it's not probable. She's certainly an outsider of the worshiping Jewish community, and she may well also be likely an outsider in Jesus' followership, but she at least recognizes who he is on some level. My daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely. And I don't have time to get into demon possession and all of those things today. But let's just say that at this point, there is something terribly wrong going on with her daughter. Whatever it is, the diagnosis in those days would have been 9 times out of 10 demon possession, because there was no other way to understand what we understand today. And so was it a literal demon? Was it something that now we would be able to put some sort of a DSM-5 label on, or something else? Again, we just don't know. And it really just frankly doesn't matter to the story, right? We don't have to know everything. I know. We want to. But we are outsiders as well, right? When it comes to the text and when it comes to the first century, we are outsiders. We are looking at this across the span of 2,000 years and trying to understand in English and with some level of historical accuracy, something that we can't have historical accuracy to, because we weren't there. So have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of God, for my daughter is possessed by a demon that torments her severely. So whatever is going on was super bad. But Jesus gives her no reply. Not a word. He absolutely ignores her. Make of this what you will. Maybe Jesus is toying with her. Maybe, I don't think it was that he didn't hear her. We're going to get maybe an indication here in just a moment of more of what may be going on. But silent treatment, is there any other thing that makes somebody feel more like an outsider than being ignored? I mean, we all know what it's like, right? To have our emails ignored, to have our tweets ignored, to have our phone calls screened, to be ghosted. We all know what that feels like. But whenever it happens face to face, whenever you are literally in somebody's personal space and you are being ignored, There's no explaining that away as being accidental, right? The only explanation is it's intentional. So Jesus gives her no reply, not even a word. And then his disciples urged him to send her away. Tell her to go away, they said. She is bothering us with all of her begging. The poor disciples, they tried to do their best, and it's easy to blame them, but really, if we were in that situation, it would really be hard for us, I think, to blame the disciples in the way that they react, because they are reacting normally. They are reacting as we would react in many situations. They're on holiday. Jesus is on a holiday. This happens all of the time. This Gentile woman, there is nothing presumably that they have to offer her or that she has to offer them. And compassion fatigue is something oftentimes that happens to insiders, that you just get tired of being compassionate and caring about people all of the time. And it's why so often people who are in the service industry with not service, but the nonprofit industry, serving with compassion and care, those people who are oppressed, who are marginalized, who are under-resourced, oftentimes cannot fulfill that role for extended periods of time, for years and decades on end, because you have compassion fatigue set in, and you cease to be valuable and helpful to those who are truly in need. So she's bothering us with all of our begging. Then Jesus says to the woman, I was only sent to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel. Now, Jesus is well known for utilizing questions and utilizing situations and assumptions in order to help draw out of individuals maybe what he needs to know, or maybe more so what they need to know about themselves in order to be able to receive whatever it is that he is desirous or desiring of giving to them. So he says, I was only sent to help God's lost sheep, the people of Israel. Essentially, he says, woman, I wasn't sent to help you. But she came and worshiped him, which is another level that we would not necessarily expect a Gentile to go to. Lord, help me. I imagine her right in his face. Sometimes I'll do that with my kids. I'll put my hands, right kind of on the side of their cheeks, and I'll look them in the eye, and I'll say to them whatever it is I want to make sure that they hear. I love you. It's going to be okay. I forgive you. She presumably gets right in Jesus' face, at least if not physically. She does so verbally and positionally, and pleads again with him, Lord, help me. Jesus responds, and this is tough. This is, to me, one of the toughest, if not the toughest verse in the New Testament, at least for me. It isn't right to take food from the children and throw it to the dogs. This is almost impossible in the English to translate in such a way that really portrays correctly what Jesus is saying here. Because what Jesus is saying here is very opposed to the way that Jesus normally talks to people. The language that is used here is abrasive. The language that is used here by Jesus is offensive. The language that is used here by Jesus is dismissive. It's harsh. It's name calling. It's bullying. And are there ways to explain either the language away to other meanings or the context of it away to other things to soften it? Yes, there are. But I'm going to tell you that in the grand scheme of the potential meanings and the ways to understand this passage, the ways that reflect positively on Jesus are in the single digits of the percentiles. And most of the weight of the way we would logically understand or take this reflects not only really badly on Jesus, but is asshole-ish. Like it's really, really bad. Like so far as to be um, questionable if Jesus reacted and used these words. It's almost questionable whether or not Jesus is perfect. And I'm not questioning whether or not Jesus is perfect, but I'm just saying that, like, it doesn't just really border on sin, but it like is beyond the line of sin in its normal understanding and context. And so something is lost in translation, or Jesus fails here. I prefer to think something is lost in translation, but I also have to wrestle with this idea that Jesus makes a mistake in how he responds to this. That's not the answer that I want to give. That's not the answer that I think is probably right and true, but it's one that I'm at least open to wrestling through. And it actually makes her follow up and Jesus' follow up kind of more powerful if Jesus responds, and maybe it's not sinful, maybe it doesn't make him imperfect or unholy, but if Jesus responds in a way that is out of the flesh rather than out of the spirit, we believe that Jesus is 100% man and 100% God. Traditionally, that theology, the hypostatic union, and if we're saying that, then Jesus is 100% man, and for those who believe that he is sinless and perfect, also have to reconcile the fact that he was 100% flesh as well. And so, even in that mindset, Jesus, I think, here can be maybe operating more so out of the flesh than we typically see him, or maybe that he should be under the circumstances. I don't know. But there, all the cards are out on the table, and you're going to have to decide where you stand, where you sit on this passage. So Jesus has responded in a way that is at best uncouth and undeserved and questionable, and at worst, wrong. But she doesn't give ground. She's an outsider here. I'd have walked away crying in this moment if Jesus said something like this to me, but she stands her ground. That's true, Lord. I may be a dog. I may be a female dog. But even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall from their master's table. Yeah, I may not be Jewish. I may not be an insider. I may not be a son or a daughter of David. I may not be one of your followers. I may not have any value to you or to Jewish people at all. But my daughter has value to me. And I am willing to confront what seems like your racism in order to try to do whatever I may for my daughter to be healed. If I'm a dog, I'm a dog. But even dogs are allowed to eat the scraps that fall from the master's table. So what can you give me? Dear woman, it's an opposite feeling now that Jesus has just been projecting. Your faith is great, which I think is an understatement. Your request is granted, and her daughter was instantly healed. As an outsider, you have a voice. You have a voice to the inside. The insiders, the disciples didn't listen, and Jesus, as an insider, seemingly wasn't listening at all. Maybe you felt that way. That though you reach out and get in Jesus' face, he ignores you or doesn't respond in the way that you want. But for every outsider, this passage is a reminder to me: do not give up on Jesus. Don't give up on God. Continue as much as you may to press forward. and fight like hell, like the Canaanite woman did, to be heard by God and to be heard by Jesus. Should you have to? No, probably not. I think Jesus heard her the first time. It was her faith. Her faith, not the faith of the insiders. The insiders would have given up a long time before. It's an outsider. She had something that the insiders didn't have. Nothing to lose, but everything to gain. Until tomorrow, I guess it's until next week.